This podcast may contain adult themes and strong language.
You stepped onto the Busker's corner.
First day I ever went busking in Phoenix, Arizona, down from the hub, Central Artist Studios. Yeah, Pioneer Park, is that what it was called, Pioneer Park? Yep, with a band called the Chocolate Dykes.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. These are the peaks and ridges of a mountain range in Arizona which roughly forms a 360-degree circle. Now, the area within this circle of volcanic rock is known as the Valley of the Sun.
We painted ourselves blue, and we used to take buckets to the park and beat on buckets. I try to gather enough money to go to Taco Bell and get a bean burrito and go up the street and get a 12-pack of ham spear. Those were the beginning of my busking days.
You just heard from Shelly Johnson, and we'll hear more from Shelly and others on this, the first episode of Busker's Corner. I'm Robert, your host and half the music duo Half-A-Shipwreck. With me is my wife Fable.
Hey there, I'm Fable. I'm the other half of Half-A-Shipwreck, and I'm also the co-host and producer of this show. So each episode is going to have its own theme. We're going to hear true stories told by different street performers that embody that theme. So this being our first episode, I think the theme of first days is quite apropos.
I'm happy to introduce our groundbreaking storyteller. We've been close friends for over 3 decades. She is a fine art painter, a performance dance artist, and a musician currently playing in a band called Roadhouse Karma. When not managing her award-winning Airbnb Shanty community in Madrid, New Mexico, she is traveling the world. We got to speak with her earlier about her first days busking. Please welcome Shelly Johnson in a story we call Freedom of Expression, here on the first episode of Busker's Corner.
This is Phoenix, and this will be your armchair vacation and mine to the Valley of the Sun.
The park was in the center of Phoenix, very different than what Phoenix looks like now, but it was still surrounded by high-rise buildings. Yeah, people walking around in business suits. We were not those people. We were the people that came out of the basement at Central Artist Studios, or the hub, covered in paint. We were right on Central, and we had a whole bunch of studios down there that a number of us lived out of and painted for a living. And we played music. One day we were just all out in the middle of the studios, and someone started beating a spoon on the railing. I think I said we should be a band. Someone said, "We're like a bunch of troglodytes." And I said, "What? Chocolate Dykes?" And they said, "Troglodytes." And I said, "Chocolate Dykes, let's let that be our band name, and let's be a band." And that's how it began. It was so fun. I felt so free. Of course, the sun's always shining in Arizona, so it was beautiful weather. We're in our shorts, just being so free. I don't remember being uncomfortable or intimidated at all, and we were not good. Casey at the time was the only one who knew how to play music, really. The rest of us just beat on buckets. I just remember feeling really free. If I can toss in another thing to that story, Robert, you were the one that told me, because I had been working part-time in a coffee shop. Most everyone, yourself included, painted at night. And I used to go into the AC closet and try to sleep at night because I had to work at the coffee shop. And during the day, we would go to the park and beat on buckets, and I would paint. And I remember you saying, it was called Jackie's Espresso. And I remember you saying, are you going to be a painter, or are you going to be someone that works in a coffee shop? And I'm like, good point. So I quit the next day and went full-time with painting and music.
Well, thank you for the shout out. That's nice of you.
Yeah. I'll never forget it. It was one of those poignant moments.
When you were painting your body blue, what kind of paint were you using?
Oh, God, that's a great question. The kind of paint we were using before our gigs was a toxic paint. It was not a watercolor it was just a big can of blue paint that we found in the basement as far as I can remember. After our gigs, we would go into the janitor's closet, and where mops and things were cleaned, that was also the shower for everyone down there. Remember that, Robert?
Yeah.
And that's where we would try to wash all the paint off of us, because we were pretty entirely covered. People tipped us enough to get a 63-cent bean burrito at Taco Bell. And there was usually enough money to go get a 12-pack of Hamm's beer, too. So we definitely got tipped some in Patriots Plaza, Patriot Square. Yeah. Yeah, we got tipped.
In a city which, almost literally as the phoenix bird of folklore, was born of dust and ashes, I think of Phoenix as a city of family fun. It is clean, bright, gay, warm, prosperous, full of vitality, and it is rich with the romantic heritage of its earliest settlers, the Indians, Spanish, Mexican, and Western pioneers. Phoenix, Arizona, in the Valley of the Sun.
Thank you, Shelly Johnson, for sharing your story on Busker's Corner. It goes to show there are things in life more valuable than money. Playing behind me now is Shelly's band, Roadhouse Karma, and during her story we heard music from Enio Marconi. All of Shelly's info, as well as all the artists we talk with, will be available in the show notes, and we hope you will visit with all of them further. Our next guest comes to us from Santa Fe, New Mexico. He's a producer, an engineer, and I hope he doesn't mind me saying all-around rock star. He runs his own studio called Torion Studio, and his original music plays throughout his story. Here is Bill Palmer in a story we call Scratching Up a Little Dough.
Hi, I'm Bill Palmer. I'm a record producer and engineer here in Santa Fe, New Mexico, and all places beyond. And a musician.
Out of the dark, I'm not surprised that our love is still alive.
Well, you know, I do play a lot of music, and I have for many years. I don't know why the street performer thing never really caught on for me. I think one of the reasons is I think to be a street performer, you really have to be an entertainer, and you have to be able to like win people over with energy, with raw energy. I tend to be kind of more of a brooding type musician, and I really like sort of quiet settings and things where people are actually there to sort of listen. So for me, I always felt a little awkward, a little bit like a fish out of water performing on the street, just because I felt like I wasn't really good enough for that, or it wasn't really my strong suit. My busking story, the one that comes to mind, kind of, I'm not sure if it's funny, but it says some things about different parts of the country and different types of people. I was traveling around years ago with a woman who we played in a band together called 100 Year Flood.
Everyone knows, everybody knows that it's all right.
We were just traveling around. We were just seeing the West. I mean, I was a young guy. I was like 25, and I always wanted to go to Montana. We just wanted to make a big loop around America. It was kind of an Easy Rider thing where we were just literally trying to see America.
Searching the world for something that isn't even there.
But we were driving an old 64 Chevy pickup, and it got, I think, 5 miles to the gallon. And so everything we made was pretty much going into the tank, and we were living on sardines and I think a lot of fried Spam, lots of fried Spam. We could sort of make it only so far in that old pickup, and then we'd have to like hunker down for a week and sort of kill some time. And it's kind of a freeing time. I remember being stuck outside of Missoula at this place called Chief Looking Glass, which was a little campground there. And we were out of money and our truck had broken down. And we were sitting over on our picnic table, and we were going to be there for like a week. We were literally catching crawfish out of the river there. It was the Clark's Fork of the Bitterroot or something. We were literally catching crawfish and like boiling them and eating them.
If you see me by the river, could be I need a ride.
We were sitting there playing a song, and these people walked over from the next camp and said, Hey, man, like, we really like listening to you guys play. You know, what's your story? We kind of told them what our deal was, and they said, okay, we got a plan for you. If you'll come over to our camp every evening, we cook pork steaks every night, and we always have a cooler of Budweiser on ice. You can drink as much of our Budweiser as you want. You can eat pork steaks if you'll just play songs for us. And so we spent a week doing that, and it was literally nothing but pork steaks and Budweiser for a week. That was it. And so we ended up becoming really good friends, and they helped us fix it. It was the starter was all chinged on our truck, so they helped us fix it, and then we were off on our way. And so, yeah, I mean, playing music in like those kinds of settings has always been kind of a lifesaver for me. It's just the actual street performance thing where you're competing with like the traffic and like the hustle and bustle that I always just felt a little like a fish out of water. We were traveling around, and we landed in Missoula, Montana. And we were out of money. We weren't really street performers, but, you know, we did a lot of campfire kind of stuff. And so we thought, well, maybe if we go into town, we can scratch up a little dough.
This is a dream.
And so we're walking down the street, and there was this art gallery in an alley. And we went in and we started talking to the people, and they were like, well, hey, come on in and set up here in the alley and play some songs.
Searching the world for something that isn't even there.
And so we did, and we made like $100 in like a couple hours. And this is like, 25 years ago. And so it was pretty good dough. Then these people came by and they were like, hey, tomorrow morning is the farmer's market. Do you guys want to come play the farmer's market? So we did that the next morning and went and played and met all these crazy folks and made like another $100. And, in those days, like $200 was pretty good money.
Living on love.
And so we were working our way over to the West Coast, and we were going to work down the West Coast. And we never really thought that we were going to end up, playing music along the way. But our experience in Missoula kind of gave us this newfound power.
If I am a living spirit, and I am an open soul.
And we were doing like this cool stuff, like old, Texas swing kind of songs and things that weren't very common in the Northwest at that time. And so we finally made our way over to Seattle, and we were like, hey, we were going to really go tear it up in Seattle. And so we pulled downtown, and I think, it cost us a bunch of money to park, like $10 or something. And I had my guitar, and she had an accordion. And we walked down the street, and we found this spot, and we set up in all the big buildings around, and we started playing, and people were literally crossing the street to pass us on the other side of the street and then cross back to do anything they could to avoid having to pay attention to us. I think we made about 16 cents that afternoon in Seattle. And that ended the street musician phase of my life.
Thank you, Bill Palmer. It's strange how these things are. Seattle on a different day might have loved him. Busking is just funny like that. Sometimes it's beer on ice with free pork steaks, and the next thing all you get are hairy eyeballs. Our final story comes to us from the streets of Hollywood. She's a writer and cosplaying busker with an agenda. She is the creator of A Star for Carrie movement, a petition to get Carrie Fisher a star on the Hollywood Walk of Fame. We met Kristin while we were busking on Hollywood Boulevard. She was dressed as Princess Leia from Star Wars, and she was nice to us strangers. It's my pleasure to introduce Kristin Grady with a story about her first days in Hollywood called Becoming Princess Leia.
Something clicked in my mind. I was like, what the fuck?
We invite you now to accompany us on a short journey through Hollywood, the film capital of the world.
My name is Kristin Grady. I am also known as Lady Moxie Jane on Instagram, and I am also known as Hollywood Princess Leia. I have been petitioning to get Carrie Fisher a star on the Hollywood Walk of Fame. I dress up like Princess Leia and go out on Hollywood Boulevard with a sign and a petition on a clipboard and collect signatures. I consider that to be both street performance and civil disobedience, petitioning and trying to make positive social changes. I moved here. I had the Princess Leia costume and I needed money. So people were like, oh, you just wear the costume and go to Hollywood Square and people will tip you for pictures. What I talk about when I mean Hollywood Square is Hollywood Boulevard, which is the Walk of Fame, basically, from Orange to Highland. That's where the Chinese Theater is, the Dolby Theater, the El Capitan Theater, which is owned by Disney, and Jimmy Kimmel has his studio there too. There's like a mall and some restaurants and stores and stuff like that, a couple of different theaters. And that's where you're going to see all of the cosplayers. It is a profession for a lot of people, and it's basically anything from dressing up as a Disney princess for a birthday party to going out on Hollywood Boulevard and taking pictures with people for tips. You dress up like a superhero or a character or somebody. Tourists will pay you like $20 for 4 pictures with their favorite characters. That is cosplay in general. There's several Batmans. There are a ton of Spider-Mans. There was a really good Snow White that I saw over and over. She was amazing, and she did the whole like princess thing. I saw her taking pictures with little girls who were very happy. And then there's Joker and Harley Quinn, who look a little rough, a little scrappy, but that is so in character that they're kind of awesome. It's really every kind of street performance you could possibly think of, all within a 2-block radius. Hollywood Walk of Fame are the stars with people's names on it. And that goes for miles down Hollywood Boulevard. That is a huge part of it. I had the Princess Leia costume and I needed money. So, people were like, oh, you just wear the costume and go to Hollywood Square and people will tip you for pictures. And, you're looking at the stars. You see Mark Hamill's star. You see Harrison Ford's star. And I asked her, where's Carrie Fisher's star? She doesn't have one. Something clicked in my mind. I was like, what the fuck? Why would they not have the Star Wars Golden Trio on the sidewalk? They have made so much money. George Lucas literally has a copyright on Carrie Fisher's face, and they put her in the movie after she died. Some of the stars are for Muppets and Disney characters and stuff, which is awesome. They're very influential. Mickey Mouse deserves a star as much as Michael Jackson, I'd say. And people still leave flowers on Michael Jackson's star. I see people praying for his soul by his star. These stars mean so much to the people, the fans, the people whose lives that these artists shaped. A star on the Walk of Fame, by the way, the fee for the application is $50,000. And that's not a guarantee. You can't just buy it. And you can get denied, and I don't think you get that back. Anna Martinez, who's the director of the Walk of Fame, had called me once after I had been emailing her for months. She just wanted to reiterate that they don't accept petitions. And I was like, I know that. I looked it up before I started a petition. That's the point, is that you don't accept petitions. And that's why I'm doing this. Is you don't understand. You're installing a public monument on a public sidewalk and not including the public in that decision and charging a fuck ton of money for it. I know that the stars are like a marketing tool, but you don't understand what these stars mean to people. Yeah, I got the idea to start a petition when I read that they don't accept petitions. So I have Anna Martinez to thank for this idea, really. Carrie Fisher needs to be represented here, because when we lost her in 2016, it was just devastating, and her fans had to make a fake star for her. If you're ever out there, you see people set up with a little cones around a blank star, because there's a lot of blank stars out there, and they put your name in little gold letters on the star so you can take selfies with it. They basically made one of those for Carrie Fisher, and people were leaving cinnamon buns and stuff for her, as well as flowers and candles. It's so sad. And when you talk to people who recognize that, they're so on board with this cause. Like, I like putting joy in people's hearts over something they already love. They felt like they've lost her, and it's almost like they get to meet Leia. They've always wanted to meet her, and I get to be that for people. It was beautiful. I've never really created anything I was so passionate about. It really helped me through my first year here, and it's still going on. So, I feel like it's been worth it so far.
Playing behind me now is composer John Williams and the London Symphony Orchestra. Thank you, Kristin, Grady. Your hard work has paid off. As I understand it, Carrie Fisher will be getting her star in 2022. And that wraps this episode called First Days, a show with a tale of newfound freedom, a tale of acceptance then rejection, and a tale of triumph. We hope you enjoyed our performers. They are very special and unique people. We have 9 more episodes of Busker's Corner being released, with titles like In Over Your Head and What Just Happened, and more, so please take the time to connect to one of our channels to hear the rest of Season 1 as it is released. Until then, you're stepping off the Busker's Corner.